Hello, Berkeley. Yeah. It's great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for coming out, especially during midterms. Yeah, boo midterms. So I came to campus in 2010. I had an idea for the next big startup. I was looking for community, resources, and support to bring my idea to life. I searched everywhere, and I couldn't find anything for undergraduate students. So as a result, I decided to start the Chainsmokers. I know it's midterms, just wanted to make sure you're awake, so I'm not Alex Pall. He'll be coming on shortly. My name is Jeremy Fiance, and the first part of this story is true. In 2010, there really was nothing for undergraduate entrepreneurs, for any student entrepreneurs on campus. There was no sense of community. And so I found other aspiring student entrepreneurs like myself, and we launched a bunch of clubs, building the resources that we wish existed on campus to help students start startups. These are some of the clubs that you know and love on campus today, like Kairos, Free Ventures, Dorm Room Fun, Cal Hacks, the revival of Startup at Berkeley, the first hackerspace on campus, the first student-run design space on campus, early inspiration for the Jacobs Institute for Design Innovation, a handful of decals, including the precursor to Build the Future, which still exists on campus today. We have the past and the current leaders of those clubs on campus today, and the ecosystem is really roaring. By the time I graduated, those clubs had sparked 50 startups that raised over $50 million in funding by the time I graduated. These are student-founded companies. And honestly, it felt like Berkeley just had this incredible momentum, and someone had to keep it going. People were asking me to stick around and keep working and keep building, and so I decided to do that. In 2015, I went out, put my life savings into starting a new kind of venture capital fund for Berkeley. I took over 750 meetings to bring the fund to life. Most of those were no's, but enough of those were yeses to raise a $6 million first fund. We launched the House Fund in 2016 as the first ever venture capital fund fully focused on Berkeley. We invest exclusively in companies that have at least one Berkeley-affiliated co-founder. That could be student, dropout, alumni, faculty. We've been all in on Berkeley, to the extent that we won't even meet with a startup if they don't have a Cal-affiliated co-founder. Go Bears. When we launched the fund, it wasn't just about investing in Berkeley startups. We wanted to create a model that could capture some of the trillions of market value that have been created by Berkeley alums. Yes, I mean trillions. You might not know that iconic companies like Apple, Intel, Tesla were co-founded by Berkeley alums. In recent years, companies, household names like DoorDash, Nextdoor, in our portfolio, Flexport. The world's highest valued AI unicorns today are Berkeley co-founded companies. OpenAI and Databricks in our portfolio. Databricks was started on this campus by students and faculty just like yourselves. And the AI revolution, which we're going to be talking about a little bit today, is truly going to change the world, and Berkeley's the best place in the world to be for that. Fast forward to today, we have over $300 million under management. We've backed over 100 Berkeley startups. We're first-round investors in 7 unicorns and counting. We've helped those startups raise over $5 billion in follow-on financing and get acquired by some of the biggest companies in the world, including Berkeley icons, Apple, and Tesla. We set out to build the fund by the Berkeley people, for the Berkeley people. And we are hell-bent on helping you all in the audience. If you want to start a startup or join a startup that can change the world, we are hell-bent on helping you do that. You can just send me an email, my last name, fiance@thehouse.fund. We'd love to help you out. We're now investing out of our new fund, which we just announced, which is a $115 million fund doing pre-seed and seed investing. We're investing up to $2 million in Berkeley startups. We also will be announcing soon our AI Accelerator, which we're going to be running for the second time this summer in partnership with the AI behemoths, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, Databricks, the biggest AI companies in the world. So what's next? Well, I don't want to keep you from the main event here. We've got a truly amazing guest here, our keynote, Alex Pall from the Chainsmokers. Let's give it up for Alex. But I'll just leave you with one thing. Berkeley founders, it's not only about creating the next billion or maybe trillion-dollar company. Berkeley founders want to solve a big problem in the world. They want to try to impact 1 billion lives as well. And we believe it's possible to not only build a huge company, but also to make a big impact and create a big change in the world. So with that, I want to get a Go Bears on 3. 1, 2, 3. Go Bears! All right. So now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Alex Pall, co-founder of the Chainsmokers, co-founder of Mantis, up to the stage. Alex, where are you at? What's up, Alex? Thanks for coming, man. Take a seat.
This is good. All my favorite things.
Yeah, can you tell us about any of these things, Alex?
Some of them. This is probably the one that you guys will appreciate the most, is that I love putting glue on my hands and peeling it off. It's just something that's peaceful for me. I do it backstage, and I think it started obviously like when I was very young. And it also, like, people, when they see you doing it, they just kind of leave you alone because it's weird. That works out. This is my dog, Mushu, who's not that tiny anymore. This is obviously the best candy known to man. The watermelons are really good, too.
You're welcome to have some.
Mushrooms, need I say more?
Well, Alex, it's amazing to have you here. And, one of the big opportunities here on campus is to learn from the greats. And you are truly one of the greats in the music industry. You're one of the greats in business and venture capital, or at least an emerging one in that regard. And we are excited to learn a lot more from you today. So let's give it up for Alex one more time.
Thank you.
So before we jump in, I just want to say a few things about Alex. So the Chainsmokers have the world record for the most consecutive weeks in the top 10 in the Billboard Hot 100 in history. It's truly.
Still have that one?
It's by a duo or by a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I was like Taylor Swift for sure.
Amazing. Forbes has named the Chainsmokers the highest grossing, highest generating DJs. Alex and Drew are definitely among the youngest in the world, among the highest grossing list. Alex, you're no stranger to Berkeley. You played a sold-out show just steps away from here at the Greek for your new album. Was anyone at that show here? Yeah.
That was a hella fun show.
And so I was told that after you played the Super Bowl after party with the Chiefs and T Swift, that you were looking for a better party, and so you decided to come to Berkeley.
Yeah, exactly. I was missing that high, and the last 3 weeks have been really hard for me, and I knew the second I walked out here, things were looking up.
All right, it's party time. Alex, we have the true future rock stars in the room here today because it's midterms this week, and so these students are skipping out on studying to be here and to learn from you. So shout out to you all in the audience. Yeah. We are also live streaming this, so what up to everyone that's tuning in? We can see you and we can feel you. Thank you for joining us. Alex.
Haptic vest on.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Alex, so let's bring it back. You were in a band called the Hush Puppies. Can you tell us the story behind the name of the band? Was it the snack, or was it about dogs, or D, none of the above?
Okay, so it was actually called the Slush Puppies.
Oh, the Slush Puppies,
yeah.
Okay.
But that's okay. I can't believe you even know that. At this point, we're talking like 7th or 8th grade right now. Me and a couple of friends would play, I'd play guitar. I think I was like the worst guitar player actually in the band. And we would just you learn like an Oasis song and like a Better Than Ezra song, and then you would perform it at like the cool band night. But at that point in time, I really didn't necessarily want to be a musician at all. I think it was just a way to like hang out with my friends more. And I didn't really like have the creative spirit for music at that point in time, funny enough. But I will say that like we had to pick a flavor and then dye our hair that color. And I was lemonade, and it just didn't look like anything. I just had weird hair.
It was like the color of my shoes, kind of.
I wish. It's just like I didn't even know how. You know, my mom didn't have any experience. She didn't know you have to go blonde to go yellow, and so I just had like this shit in my hair, and that was it. You know.
That's awesome. I also had a full head of bleached hair back in the day. So
I could see that.
Yeah. Alex, did you do anything entrepreneurial growing up?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, yes. I mean, I think, like, for me, my mom got me started working real early to get me out of the house, which I appreciate now looking back. But, you know, any, you know, free time I had, basically, especially, like, during summer, you know, when we weren't in school, was, like, meant to be either interning somewhere or doing a job to earn some of my own money. Obviously, like at the time, you know, I didn't always appreciate it, but I thought it was, you know, looking back, like a really important way for me to understand the value of money, and also just the people around us all the time that are like working their asses off for our own benefit.
Yeah.
So I was like a landscaper, I was a tree man, I was a caddy, I worked in a video cassette store, which those don't even exist anymore. My first job was at a pet store cleaning the shit cages and many more things. But I guess like really the first like entrepreneurial thing I did outside of like interning at art galleries and stuff, which is what I thought I initially you know wanted to do and was most passionate about, was you know when I started DJing for fun. My mom had you know really close friends of hers that was like the cool older mom. And she would throw these disco parties for her and her friends, and they asked me if I would come play disco music, which I had absolutely no, you know, history in. So they would like give me the CD, mark the songs that they wanted played, and then I think I made like a few $100, and that kind of then turned into me playing like Sweet 16s and school dances and stuff like that. And you know, and I think I learned a lot about just like being, you know, obviously a good host and reading the room and in the service industry and things like that. And then of course just, you know, how fun it was to do that, and like I would have to bring all of my own stuff and set it up. And you know, people weren't always happy with what I did too. So it like gives you kind of a perspective on like not everything is always going to go to plan. Yeah.
Drew describes you as having great taste. Did any of that great taste come from your mom's disco collection?
In music? It certainly did. I mean, I think like once you kind of go down these roads of like different genres and from different eras, you kind of, it's like a, you know, a piece of yarn you keep pulling at, and it keeps unwinding and kind of leading you to different artists and different genres and periods that, to me, I honestly don't really listen to a ton of new music. I'm always finding myself going back in time and listening to the things that I either, you know, haven't discovered yet or don't know that have like influenced a lot of the things that are happening now. But you know, doing those, I mean, I remember I had like a, you know, crazy 70-year-old woman come up to me as a 13-year-old and was like, "You don't know anything about disco," and I was like, "Yeah, I like for sure don't. Like, this is my first time DJing and playing disco." She was so mad. But like I really appreciate that stuff, and obviously I think, you know, in general, I can't remember if it was like a James Lipton or like a Charlie Rose interview or something, but it was like about what it takes to become like a great actor today. And I think this like applies more broadly to like any sort of field you're interested in or excited about, which is, you know, it's not necessarily not important to study art history if you want to become an art dealer or a collector, but I think it's like really the collective experience of learning about like life in general and being out there and having those experiences. So, you know, it's funny now being where I am and a musician, which I never thought I was going to be, a venture capitalist, which I never thought I was going to be, a tequila owner, which I probably thought I might be. And you know, and it's like, and really a lot of the things that I did weren't in practice of those things. It was just like I was always, you know, curious and adventurous and wanted to expose myself to as much as possible.
You mentioned art a couple times. I want to leap forward to college. You went to NYU. You studied art history. Can you talk about art and its influence in your life?
Yeah, and first of all, bears are way cooler than violets. Like I was just saying backstage, our like mascot was literally like a purple flame. Like it's like I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
really
I don't know
is.
either. Yeah.
Versus a bear, which is way cooler.
Thank you.
But yeah. So I think it's like an interesting thing that I think a lot about. My father passed away when I was much younger, when I was 12, but he was an art dealer. And I was fortunate enough to kind of grow up around, incredible art from like Picasso's and Rothko's and Lichtensteins and really amazing modern artists. And, my dad kind of explained it to me. He was like, basically, I like buy something, go into debt, extreme debt, and then hope I can like flip it fast enough for a profit. And then I kind of just keep doing that over and over again. So we would have this art kind of just constantly circulating through our house. And my sister and I are both auction babies, so she's in November and I'm in May. So I used to love reading the Sotheby's catalogs and Christie's catalogs and looking at the art and the prices, and kind of over time you begin to pick up some sort of pattern recognition and obviously an aesthetic of the things you like. But like growing up, that was all I knew. My mom, as amazing as she was, she basically just raised my sister and I. So from a business standpoint, outside of like the shitty summer jobs that I did, this was like really the only thing that I had any sort of had been exposed to. So naturally, I was like, I guess I should just be kind of an art dealer. Like I do love art. I seem to know more about it than most people my age, and this feels like a natural progression. So I went to NYU and studied art history and business, and I went to Gallatin, which is this really interesting school, and certainly something I appreciate about Berkeley in terms of like their entrepreneurship and creativity and empowering the students to kind of take their own path. But for me, it was like you literally got to make your own major. So I didn't have to take any of the prerequisite courses. I could take the weirdest course over here as long as I could like spin it into like some sort of thing. And so my thesis was this idea around studying the kind of commoditization of art over the course of history and how we've ended up in this art gallery sort of environment or auction house kind of environment. And, I really loved it. But then as I graduated and I worked in a gallery for 5 years, it wasn't so much that I didn't love the art anymore, but I think the commerce side of it really like began to shine through in terms of like how much nepotism there is in the space. Felt like there was a lot of shady laundering sort of activity as well. Not at my gallery, the guy I worked, of course, but in general. And it just didn't feel as, creatively connected as I thought growing up. And meanwhile, at the same time, music began to play a bigger role.
It sounds like some parts of that are similar to investing. Would you say so?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think like, and I credit this, first of all, anyone who becomes a collector and buys art, even if you're just buying little things, like obviously buy things you love, don't buy things because you think it's going to be worth a lot later. And I think, that's a principle that I've carried certainly into our invest in, which is, try not to, obviously you want to have these big outcomes and success stories, but I think when you're investing in a company that you're going to be working with for 10 or 15 or 20 years, should be something you're really passionate about and excited to work on versus just some monetary outcome. Because even if it doesn't work out, you'll feel a lot happier about that journey that you went on versus like 10 years of like, God, the CRM shit is so boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Not that, like, those companies aren't good either, but that sort of stuff.
Just during your time in college, can you tell us about a time that you maybe failed or where you applied to something that you weren't accepted to that you wanted to join?
Ooh, man, that's tough. Well, most girls rejected me, so there's lots of those stories. I mean, funny enough, I actually got rejected from most of the schools I wanted to go to when I was applying to college, and I wasn't really discouraged because that whole process was kind of just strange to me that I should like know exactly where I want to go and what I wanted to do. Like I was a big Duke basketball fan, so I wanted to go to Duke, but they didn't have an art history program at the time, and I was like, damn, that sucks. I really wanted to see them play basketball, so now I got to like find somewhere else to go. And I don't want to say I didn't want to take it seriously, but I wasn't a good standardized tester at all. I had so many different tutors and things to help me, thank God. And I went to American University early decision, and it was kind of like there. I remember waking up there, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing here? And luckily, I had a good friend that went to NYU, and he was like, dude, you got to transfer back here. And, luckily, my grades were firing and got in and transferred in my sophomore year. But I think that was like such an interesting period in my life just because like there wasn't a ton of clarity. I certainly didn't feel like I was like a diamond in the rough or had really any direction. And in some ways, I guess, luck and timing played a role in these things. But I certainly was never discouraged about ultimately what I wanted to do in life. And, I think for me, it was about finding ways to make myself happy and putting myself in a situation where I felt like I could grow and flourish the best.
You trusted the journey in the process.
Exactly, yeah.
Steve Jobs, he famously audited classes at Reed College in calligraphy, and that turned out to later be formative for Apple's typography and the early Macintosh. And I was curious if there was anything kind of random you did during your college period of time that you thought was going to be useless, but turned out to actually be quite useful.
Yeah, so this is going to shock you all because I don't want to get the people, what I'm about to say, give people them too much credit, but I was a club promoter. Big surprise. And, you know, I would say generally, you know, no shame to anyone that's still club promoting or any club promoters in this room. I still love them. But I think, you know, at the time it felt like a means to just, you know, have fun with your friends, go out, get paid a couple bucks, and hopefully not spend all your money on alcohol. And, you know, I ironically took it like really seriously. Like it was important for me to like make these owners of these clubs happy and for my friends to come out and have a great time and make sure I hosted them, you know, in the right manner and made everyone feel welcome and have a good experience. And, you know, I think that communication, like I would have to send out like 400 or 500 text messages every night, whether, you know, and begging people to come out. And I came up with these clever ways to like engage people and have fun and stand out. And I think a lot of those same skills translated to like how we started promoting our music, to how I send cold emails to founders now. And also just like what are those special things inherently about Drew and I and the business we built that attract people to us and or gravitate to us in terms of how we're unique. And Jimmy Buffett, of all people, I think made us really look internally and kind of I try to identify what those things are. And then from there, that's where we kind of began to like plot our course in terms of like the other businesses and things we wanted to explore. But yeah, club promoting, believe it or not. Yeah.
Incredible hustle. I want to double click on one thing you said, which was making people feel welcome. If you ask the people that work with you, if you ask your crew, they all just say that you're the most kind, inclusive person. Even when I first met you, you're just so nice and welcoming.
It was a good kiss, wasn't it?
It was. I'll never forget it. It's kind of crazy that kindness and being welcoming it's a differentiator, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, especially in a world where while we feel so connected, we also feel so disconnected. And, you know, I think back to like the high school days of when you're walking down, you know, the hallway and someone that you admire or look up to or think is cool is like nice shoes. And like the impact of something as simple as that, like you might wear those shoes for the next 5 years because someone was like, those shoes are cool. And so I think, you know, doing those little things, making that little extra effort to make someone feel welcome and acknowledged, you know, those are things that are memorable. And I'm not going to, you know, I think a lot about karma, and I think I do believe in karma to some degree, but I do think on a lot of ways, if you like, you could probably explain karma like scientifically if you really wanted to get into it, that like if you were generally nicer to people, that someone 15 years later might remember that and said something nice about you to someone else that they remembered, and then this is like that good deed that's coming back to you. So I think, you know, those things add up, and it's not to say that like nice guys always finish last or first for that matter, but I think people remember that stuff, and I'd rather be remembered that way than the other way.
That's awesome. Alex, you are too kind.
Yeah, I can be a prick too. Yeah, ask Fred. I'm
curious about an essay that you wrote. I don't know if it was in high school or in college, The Dawn of a DJ.
Oh my God!
I just want to know if there's.
You're exceptional at your job. Holy shit!
I just want to know if there's anything about DJing that you saw there when you wrote that kind of.
That's so wild. Holy crap! I think I got an A on that one too.
Yes. Well done.
Which was rare. You know, I never thought that like this was a viable career path, especially at the time that like I first started. For me, it was like kind of an outcome or a result of like how hard it was to like discover and find and listen to music that you wanted to. You know, so I had my 3 CD disc changer with the 2 cassettes that I would like record music off the radio onto these cassettes, and then I would like have a mix of the songs I wanted. Because I remember like one occasion, I think Mission Impossible had some song that came out that I really wanted to hear, and I just couldn't hear it, like flat out. It was like no way to hear this song. I had to sit by the radio and call in and request it, and then maybe they might play it. And so I started like making mixes, and then I saw this CDJ equipment, and I was like, damn, this shit looks way cooler, and I can make way better mixes. And my mom was kind enough to get it for me for my birthday. And then, you know, and then from there, actually, like I remember bringing my stuff to my high school dorm room on the first day, and I was like, everyone was like, damn, this is cool, this guy's the DJ. And then the dorm proctor was like, get that shit out of here. And that was it. And that was for like 5 or 6 or 7 years, like I didn't DJ at all anymore. But I went to a trip, my sister went to school in University of Bristol in England, and they have an amazing electronic scene there. It's a really cool city. And I like loved. I remember going out one night and seeing this DJ Alex Gopher and Etienne de Cressy playing, and the music was amazing, but it was more about like the curated nature of the party, where like everyone again felt like they were on the same. There was no like VIP or bottle service. It was just like everyone was here to have the best time possible, and the music was really like the centerpiece of all of that. And I'd gone to like tons of shows in the U.S., but I hadn't like felt that experience the same way. And I think that really like pulled me back in, just like the universal nature of electronic music. Like, these were French DJs. Music was all, lyrically in French. And no one cared. It just felt great. And I knew I had to bring that experience back to New York. And luckily, that's where like club promoting and DJing, began to kind of intersect. And then, of course, your YouTube is beginning to take off, and you're seeing acts like, Calvin Harris and Avicii and Swedish House Mafia, playing these incredible shows over the world. But I felt like, the U.S. or American DJ was like very underrepresented at the time, outside of like Skrillex and Diplo. And it felt like I was just too obsessed with it. I couldn't get it off my mind. And that's kind of where things really began to change.
That was the dawn of a DJ.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Wow. We have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs in the room. It's really difficult to find a co-founder. You have a very famous or infamous first mandate with Drew. Can you tell us about that? And when did you know he was the one?
It's so crazy. Because, he has a funny perspective on this too, because before we had like our sit-down mandate, we had been invited to the same kind of bar the night before, and I was DJing, had just stopped DJing with this other guy who was a part of the Chainsmokers first. He wanted to go off and do his own thing, and, which was a bummer, but I like still believed in the kind of platform we had built and the potential of it, so I paid him, at the time was an extraordinary amount of money. It was like $8,000 or something.
Wow.
And, Drew, I guess, funny enough, told me he like came to the thing where we were both at, and he saw both of us, and he was like, I really hope it's that guy and not that one, because he didn't even know which one was which. So then when I showed up the next day, he was like, oh, thank God. But for me, it was really strange. We had an intern working for, still to our day, that's our manager, and he, Drew came over, and we sat down, and we bonded over Calvin Harris and Bud Light, and we're both Northeast guys, and just our different. We kind of like, I'm 5 years older than Drew, but we went through these really dramatic shifts in music and taste over the course of both our lives. So it's kind of cool to be like, wow, we like don't know each other at all, but we actually have so much in common, even musically. But I think what really, what was really weird about it, because it'd be like, this would be like equivalent of like going on a blind. It is kind of. Has anyone seen Love Is Blind? Like, they're getting married after 4 weeks. Like, that's not real, like how things are supposed to go down. And so like, but Drew and I sat down, and it was like a couple being like, so we're gonna get married, right? And then we're gonna have 5 kids, and then when we have 5 kids, we're gonna go buy that mansion, and then we're gonna like send them to these schools. And like Drew and I literally in that first meeting were like, here's goal number 1, like we got to become the biggest electronic act in the world, and we have to like give everything we have in order to do that. Like, we cannot leave anything on the table. We have to work 20 hours a day on music if that's what we have to do. And then the other thing, which was like, if that wasn't kind of a bold enough statement, we were kind of like, well, once we do that, then let's like create other businesses that are adjacent and that we're excited about. And so it was like, in that first meeting, we had basically, like outlined what would become the next, 11 years of our lives.
Wow. Wow. I was just thinking back to that moment in time before this. I used to go on Hype Machine, a website, every day to discover new music. That's where I first saw some Chainsmokers remixes.
Yeah, still out there.
Can you describe kind of that moment in time in music? You mentioned some of the artists that came before you. What made that moment right for the taking for the Chainsmokers?
It was interesting. I think we played around with and didn't really have a ton of success initially. We were making like derivative music that I don't think anyone cared about. If you want to hear Avicii, you're just going to go listen to Avicii. But I think it was important for us to kind of have this exploratory phase. We didn't put too much pressure on ourselves. It was kind of like refining our skills a little bit and getting to know each other. And I remember one day, I think it was Drew was like, oh, do you know this artist Yonsi? And I was like, of course, he's amazing. He's like, well, you just put out this song that doesn't really have any production, like drums, percussion. It's pretty stripped back. Like, I think I can like take this song and flip it, remix it, and make it like pretty awesome. And I was like, yeah, let's like, that sounds great to me. I love this song. And, we did it, and, we discovered it on the site Hype Machine that we were both listening to. And then we kind of were like, why don't we take like a closer look at the site and like really understand like how this works? It seems like, every song basically gets boosted by the number of blogs that post about it. And it seems like if you write about them really fast, they kind of go up faster. And so I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to like create a list of every single writer that's like basically writing about music, period, on the internet. So I would like pick 50 songs that were like popular at the time, and I would Google search them, and then any news source or writer that talked about that song, I would add them to my Excel list. And I ended up with like probably close to like 2,000 different writers and
Wow.
hundreds of different blogs. And we were like, okay, let's try this out. Like let's think about like how do labels usually contact these writers? It's like this generic for immediate press release only, sort of message. And I was like, what if we like do it ourselves and like create a connection with these writers, and then use Yonsei, because I'm going to look at every blog that has written about Yonsei now, and then I'm going to identify with the writers that were particularly interested in him, and we're going to use him as our wedge to open up this writer's relationship, and then hopefully they like the remix. So at the end of the day, if the song sucks, the song sucks. And we did it, and it was like, holy crap, it's like working. You know what I mean? Like people are now writing about our songs. They don't really care about us, but it doesn't matter, because if we can just peel off 5% of Yonsei fans as a result of this, this can be like a really powerful kind of flywheel effect. And then, more artists like Daughter and Tuvlo and Phoenix and Two Door Cinema Club, and, the list goes on. Until one day, like, labels were reaching out to us being like, we're going to pay you if you remix our artist. And so it was a pretty cool moment for us, because I think we were completely disillusioned also. Like, we started getting like 1 or 2 million plays on a song, and I was like, we're about as big as Drake. You know what I mean? I was like, and then you kind of, the sobering reality of how big that it actually is begins to hit. But, for us, we were just happy about the progress. And I think that's something that, we've done really well, which is like we set goals, but we really don't lose sight of the kind of journey that we're on.
If you break that down, that's kind of like a startup's go-to-market strategy. I mean, that was an incredible go-to-market strategy.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and that's something I think we're really good at. I think that, we could talk about investing all day, but I think, as these companies enter fields in whatever respected vertical, our job is to help you think outside the box and use modern day tools and things that you're not thinking about to give you an advantage relative to any competitors, or at least give you the best foot forward to accomplish your goals of reaching your customers, or whoever your ideal ICP is. So for us, I think we learned a lot through those experiences.
I saw on your Instagram story a couple weeks ago, you posted an email about Selfie. Yeah. And I know you don't like to talk about the song Selfie.
No, I love it. I love it.
Do? Okay,
yeah,
okay, great.
I love it now.
You posted that you pretty much emailed every blog, every DJ about the song to get it out there. And I just thought that was incredible hustle as well. Can you tell us more about that story? And I mean, that was kind of a breakout moment.
Yeah, so that was a really cool email, because it's just weird to see now. But that was kind of the format that we do. We write these like quirky, funny emails to get people's attention. They weren't too long. They were kind of to the point. I think by this point we kind of had nailed the Hype Machine model. So you can begin to tell I toned them down a little bit. But that was our effort. We would like leave no stone unturned, like reach out to every DJ, every radio show host imaginable, and it like had a powerful effect to kind of jumpstart the importance of that song. It's funny, we had an opportunity as a the outcome of this song, where when we were signing to Republic Records, and it was kind of crazy, like all these labels wanted to sign us. We really had pick of the litter. We ended up going with Universal, and shout out to Monty and Avery, they're amazing label heads. They did end up dropping us, so not that amazing. I remember part of what we wanted in signing them, they were like, what do you want? How do we convince you to come? And we were like, we want to meet Rick Rubin. And he was like, I can make that happen. And we're like, if you do that, we'll sign with you. And I remember going to Rick Rubin's house, which is just as magical as you can imagine. And we were like, Rick, tell us, what should we do next? And he was like, I think you need to change your name. He's like, and start over. And I was like, what? And I was like, that's not the advice that I was looking for. And, I don't think he was wrong. I think he made a lot of valid points to kind of support that, which is like, you guys wrote a really clever, amazing song, but you're issue that you had is that you promoted it too much. You should have just let it be, and you took too much ownership of it. But these are like lessons that I've learned, you know, and there's so many more about, you know, like who you should listen to, who you're aligned with, you know, make sure you're sharing the same vision for what the future is, and you're both coming at it from the same perspective. And I think Rick, you know, it didn't mean it like you guys are done. It was just like, that's a hard thing to overcome. But we figured it out.
You didn't listen to Rick.
Didn't listen to Rick. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is, in hindsight, probably really stupid. Like, you'd probably listen to Rick, but yeah.
I think it's a great name.
Yeah.
So, just in the early days of the Chainsmokers, I mean, it wasn't easy for y'all. Can you talk about an early setback and how you overcame that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to one. I mean, getting dropped from Universal was like a really hard day in the lives of the Chainsmokers.
Why did you get dropped?
So, I mean, basically it was just like kind of a creative difference thing. I think at the end of the day, I think they thought they had gotten LMFAO 2.0, and we were like, nah. Like, we wrote this selfie song in like 15 minutes, and like it was just a fun idea. We didn't expect it to get this big, but now is our chance to like piggyback off that and show the world what music we're really about and the type of artists we really want to be. And I think for them, they were just kind of like, yeah, I don't really know if I want to support what that artist is. We had played them roses. And, you know, I don't think I actually give them a lot of credit because like traditionally in the music business, you can sign up for, you know, a label deal and they can just shelve you and basically end your career and like basically just put you in the closet, and that's it. So we had to make a decision. They were like, we can pay you what's left on your deal, and you stay at Universal and potentially never get to release music ever again, or you forgo that X amount of money, which was like more money than, you know, Drew and I had ever seen, but you get your creative career back, and you can kind of go where you want to go. And the irony was, I remember showing up to our lawyer's office where we were supposed to have a meeting that I thought was about our future and all the exciting things we were going to do. And it turned out it was completely the opposite. It was like, you're getting dropped. They don't want to be with you and they don't believe in your future.
That's tough.
It was brutal. I mean, I couldn't have been any more opposite than what we thought we were going to be there for. But, you know, I remember sitting in that meeting, and our manager and our agent and our lawyer and Drew, you know, we decided then that we weren't going to bet against ourselves. We believed in the artists that we wanted to be and the music that we could make. And that was like one of the most important kind of like pick-me-up moments in our career that we've continued to use in terms of how we think, you know, through the types of decisions we have to make that are really challenging.
Way to go.
Thanks. That sucked. I mean, I remember, you know, like you were coming back, it was like, how was it? And you're like, we got dumped. You know, it was like getting dumped. And obviously, especially, you know, they're a killer, legendary record label. So for someone like that you hold in such high esteem to basically say we don't believe in you, you know, you really have to like think really deep about like who you are and what you want to accomplish. And, you know, I'm glad that we're just as stubborn bastards as we are.
Speaking of that, you and Drew have always been pretty self-deprecating,
Yep.
even to this day. You've also always been pretty self-aware. You've described on interviews, we're not the best musicians or the best singers or the best DJs or the best producers, yet you've achieved kind of the pinnacle in the music industry. I don't really have a question, but Can we talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think being self-deprecating is one of the best qualities that someone could have, and then you know, also being self-aware as well. I know I'm sitting up here talking nonstop, but like generally, I like to think I'm someone that likes to be in your seat and asking the questions and listening and learning. You know, I feel like I've run the gamut from like working shitty jobs to being a B- student to, you know, turning those things around into really positive forces. So I feel like I've never lost sight of like the journey and the ups and downs and losing my dad and the feeling that, you know, decisions I had to make as a 12 or 13-year-old about what kind of future I wanted to have. And so, you know, for me, I think, you know, especially in venture, when you're talking to people that are, you know, experts at the things they're investing or building, or partners that are experts in the things they're investing in, you know, I think there's like a natural imposter syndrome sometimes for people where it's like, do I belong here? Can I make a difference? Will people care what I have to say? And I think, you know, what I've been surprised about is that, you know, how willing the smartest people are in any space are to someone just saying like, hey, explain this to me like a 6-year-old. You know, it's like, I'm not, you know, it's not like I was born yesterday, but I think, you know, people respect other people that have humility and like want to listen, and more importantly are like willing to show up and do the work. So I think, you know, if you can accomplish those sort of things and be that sort of person, I think you can still have a tremendous amount of success without being an expert. And I think it's a better way to live too, because no one likes to know it all. And I think know-it-alls generally miss things because they think they know it all. But the world is always changing. Yeah.
I just want to let you know I think you're pretty great.
Oh, man. Should we have another kiss?
Maybe after. I want to talk about personal growth. On your 2017 Memories Tour, it was your first big tour. You had a crazy schedule, like the craziest of crazy schedule. And you managed during that to take piano lessons. You were working out regularly. You were growing while going through one of the craziest periods of time in your life. How do you do that? How do you juggle that and keep growing?
Yeah, so there's actually a funny story. So like while we produce, I played guitar growing up, but it didn't like stick for that long. And producing is like you're basically like on a DAW on your laptop. So you don't necessarily have to be able to play any instrument for that matter. There's like all sorts of crazy plugins that can create chords and sounds and stuff. It's much more digital than sitting and learning to play violin or something like that. And so I remember like 4 or 5 years into our career when we like actually started to it became clear that we weren't just going to like disappear anymore, that I like began to have this weird crippling anxiety that I was like, what if I have like a kid one day and he's like, Dad, can you play me like Closer on the piano, which is very easy also.
We're going to test you about
Yeah,
that.
And it was like, this is about as good a piano as I can play. And I was like, that would be the most embarrassing thing if like the school was like, Mr. Paul, would you come in and, play for the kids one of your songs? And I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And it's like, what? And so I was like, I'm going to take it upon myself to teach myself piano. And I still do. I do 2 hours of piano every day, except for weekends when we're traveling. And it's become almost like a meditation thing now versus like the journey of actually trying to learn it. For me, I think that's always kind of been our attitude, which is just like throw yourself into something. And if you could devote enough energy and time and passion to it, you'll come out somewhere on the other side, really positively. But going back to like, that period in our life, that was a really interesting period because I think, you're dealing with, as Drew says it best, I think we were like also, like I want to have another hit song so badly, less about the success and wealth and things like that, and really more about like enjoying that experience of what it means to have that opportunity. Because like in that moment, there was just so much noise and chaos. It felt like we were living outside our own body most of the time in terms of how people perceived us. And we were young and stupid and had a chip on our shoulder. And so I think, I'm not super proud of all the things we did back then. I mean, I think that was the hard part, was like you almost become disassociated with yourself and who you believe you are. And you're like, that's not who that's the like who we are. But, we surrounded ourselves. We have a great group of friends. We have a great team. Obviously Drew and I are great friends to each other, like brothers at this point. And, and we love to work. And for us, that's like been the backbone of everything, which is like, if we have a fan in China, like we need to go to China and play a show for that fan. We're extremely passionate about music, but it's obviously a creative experience as well. And it's not like necessarily the same as like hours in a gym always. Sometimes, like I was saying, you need to like actually be anywhere but the studio to find that inspiration and that spark that then when you go back in leads to a great song or a great melody. And I think that's what's tricky about music, but also what's so great about the opportunity provided us, because we work on music at night, and I found ourselves, from the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. being like, what can I do right now with my time? And, thank God technology is an important thing in the world, because that was the next thing.
Those are great stories. I want to talk about giving people a shot. Your pianist and your drummer, you found them on the internet. What led you to give some randos on the internet a shot and to join your band?
That honestly was such a weird thing to do. And it's like our drummer's still very much with us. Tony and is like one of the best piano players I've ever seen, and he's actually like having a really great moment as well. But, we had this idea where we were writing songs that weren't all just like dance floor bangers. They were like ballady or slower. And, it was tough for us to perform those songs as DJs because they didn't really lend themselves to that way. So we wanted to challenge ourselves and try to become, a proper band, or at least have these 2 different show formats where we could play our album in its entirety and people can have that, intimate experience that you would want from like a band versus a DJ. But we didn't have a drummer. We didn't have I was just beginning to learn piano. So like I definitely wasn't up for the task. And, this guy, Matt McGuire, was making these drum covers on the internet, and, they were awesome. And we texted him or DM'd him one day, and we're like, "Are you in a band or like what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I live in Australia, mate." And and we're like, "Do you have any interest in being part of the Chainsmokers?" And he was like, "Love that." And like, not only is he one of the best drummers in my opinion out there, but this guy's work ethic, like, it's unbelievable how essential he is to our Chainsmoker business, and just as musicians, and how he brings a whole new edge of performance and production to what we're doing. But like, I think that same idea of like looking for diamonds in the rough or people in unusual places, I think it's something that's like really important to the core of like not just Chainsmokers but Mantis as well as it relates to venture. Because for us, we want to be that fund that looks and feels different. We want to be able to bring value and do things for you that the traditional venture fund can't. And I think in order to continue to do that, you kind of have to look for people that don't necessarily fit that obvious mold that you see so often across the industry. And I take like Steve, who's now our head of platform and our head of gaming investments. He worked in sustainability and climate. He worked in fashion, pretty much in everything but technology in a lot of ways. And he interned for us during COVID, and he was like, "I don't even really know, ventures for me, but I'd like to come work and just get some exposure to it." And this guy blew us away, and now he's running, what is one of the most important parts of Mantis. And and I think he's been so successful at that because he has such a diverse background of experiences that allow us to continue to be that unique, value add partner to our investment partners and to our founders.
Let's talk a little bit about Mantis. You've described the transition from the Chainsmokers to venture capital as a natural one. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and what led you to start a VC fund?
Yeah, so to be honest, I didn't really know what a venture fund was probably 8 years ago or something like that. We had built this successful business in music, and we were fortunate enough to have, we had done the smart thing. We had bought our homes, paid them off, had a diversified public, portfolio, invested in some real estate, and our business manager was like, "Listen, guys, I'm getting inbounded all day, every day with these different opportunities. I'd say most of them are dog shit, but there are some interesting ones that I'd be happy to explore with you guys that hopefully create some sort of passive revenue." And he was the one that was like, "But I would recommend, try not to think about these billion-dollar outcomes. Really invest in the ideas that you're excited about and that you want to help and be a part of." And I was like, "Sure, okay, let's start looking at this stuff." And ironically, everything, I was like, I never want to look at a water company ever again. I've seen more water companies than anyone should have to see in their entire lifetime. But it was a lot of things along the consumer vertical, a lot of things around the creator economy and social, and it made sense why these things were finding us, especially in CPG, distribution and marketing are such an important X factor. So I understood why these types of opportunities were coming to us more frequently. But I think in that experience, even working within those specific verticals, we were just blown away by getting to work with entrepreneurs again. I don't mean this as a negative thing to musicians, because there's so many great, ambitious, hardworking, focused ones out there. But there are also a ton that are very, creative, outlandish, and they just don't answer text messages for 7 weeks. And, and that's frustrating because Drew and I are go, go, go 24/7. And when you're can you just tell me if you like this mix? And then 3 months later, they just write yes. And you're like, what? Where have you been? What have you been doing? This is insane. And while we were working, begin investing, these founders are emailing you at 3 a.m. asking about ideas or different strategies they're thinking about. And I was like, feel like I have a lot more in common with these folks sometimes than the musician world. And that was kind of inspiring. And then the other part was just we began to help them in really unique ways that I found really rewarding personally. And that, for me, I think is where we began to kind of get bit by the bug. We started having more conversations with more founders. And, I think the best part about our career is the people we've been exposed to and the shows we've gotten to play for different people. And Drew and I have never been transactional. We've never showed up to someone's even Sweet 16 and been just give, here's the hour-long show, let's get the money and get out of here. We're always who's the guy that paid for this? He must have done something pretty cool, or who's the woman, or whoever is in charge. I would love to meet them and learn about the things they're interested in and build a friendship. And, some of those people like Michael Seibel and Brian Chesky and Drew Houston, are some of our best friends and closest allies.
Legends.
And, and I remember talking to them and I was like, why am I not seeing, Stripe and Robinhood and Palo Alto networks? They're like, because no one knows you're investors. Like, you are sitting on your hands waiting for things to come find you. Your best advantage is that you can kick down doors and people are willing to speak to you and have those conversations they might not be with other people. So why are you sitting on your hands, waiting for those things to find you? If you're interested in technology and come to San Francisco, set up dinners, go to conferences, meet people and let people know that you're really curious and interested, and I guarantee you'll have more success. And that's where everything began to kind of get to that, institutionalization of our investing.
The relationship building is paying off.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's crazy. It's like that scene in Billy Madison where he's like, puts the lipstick on. He's like, glad I called that guy.
Yeah.
In fact, they were on a similar stage like this.
We have to talk about AI. What was going through your head when you saw that fake Drake Weekend song?
I thought it was pretty good, to be honest with you. I think the part that was funniest to me is he just like was a dude with a sheet over his head, and like how simple that was. You know what I mean? It was like almost like the technology's come so far, but the way he's hiding his identity is like you could be in like the 1700s. So that really stuck out to me. But I thought it was amazing. You know what I mean? Obviously, I understand why like a Drake or someone like that or The Weeknd might not be super excited about something like this. Although I do think it brought a ton more exposure to them at the end of the day, and there's no such thing as bad press when it comes down to it. But I thought it was amazing. I think that this is something that all artists and creatives are in whatever field they're in are going to have to come to terms with and embrace it and understand it and figure out how to make it work for them. I definitely think there's a lot of things that we're going to need to figure out. I think there's going to potentially be some downside, to this and negative effects as well. But, I want to call it progress because that's what it feels like it is to me. And I feel like, we've seen countless times throughout history how, the naysayers of something that's changing or disrupting something end up disappearing as a result of that. So I think you always have to be adapting and absorbing and understanding these things, and then you figure out how you make them work for you versus kind of rejecting them, straight off the bat. The problem with music, and just quickly, is that there's so many issues around rights management, and that makes it such a tricky space. And I think that's why the music business is so much smaller than every other industry in entertainment, is because of those issues. And gaming's like a $500 billion a year business, if not bigger now, and that's because they're like so much more open to collaboration and innovation and adoption of things. And music is just like this kind of lockdown place, and it's kind of a shame because I feel like we could be, in a really interesting place if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. I saw a kid in the back. He's training an LLM on the entire Chainsmokers catalog.
Whoa.
And launching a knockoff. What do you think about that?
That's great. Yeah, I love that. I think at the end of the day, like, that's super cool. Like, I'm not even opposed to that. Like, I think where I would have an issue with that would say, like, if there was a million of Chainsmoker songs flooding the internet, and there was no way for me to control that, or at least partake in revenue that those songs were creating. So I think you're going to need a modern day Spotify or DSP provider. I think you're going to need a Hugging Face for music and AI, where people can list these tools and models and different things that can become really useful. I said this before, but we've gotten songs that someone's trained the song on Drew's voice, and it's this is crazy. I don't even need to cut this song. I know right away if this is something that I think Drew would sound good singing. And that saves us countless hours. I think that's such a useful tool. And also, I don't even, if you wrote a better Chainsmoker song than us, and this was it, I'd be great. This is how the music business works anyways. Most pop stars don't write their own songs. So this is just a prompted model version of that, and great. So now let me cut it for real with Real Drew. We split the profits in a fair way, and the world's happy because they have a great song.
He's going to call it bottomless vape pods. What do you think?
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Are the Chainsmokers leveraging AI for their music in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. We've used a couple of different platforms, from Refusion to Suno, Soundry. These are things where it's we can sit here and program drums, and it's going to take us a few hours probably to figure out what we want, or I can go into Soundry and just be keep prompting until like they spit out like a loop that I'm like, perfect. That's like good enough for me right now to like keep me in the flow state of my idea. Because I think at the end of the day, like all of our best songs happen generally in like 2 or 3 hours. So if you can like keep yourself locked into that creative flow better versus being like, oh God, I gotta like figure out what drums I want, and now I'm like spending too much time on this, and now I'm pissed off, and now I'm not creative anymore. I think those are like really clever ways to do it. And I mentioned too, like writers sending us, versions of songs they want us to sing that have Drew's voice already on it. I mean, that's super useful. And then of course, just the democratization of music in general is exciting. You know, like I said, Drew taught me a lot about Ableton, and obviously like pianos are expensive, but like we all want to create and make things. And I think, giving people more access to doing those tools is fun, and we all want to, express ourselves.
Embrace technology, embrace the future. I love it. Are there any areas outside of music in AI that you're investing in or that you're excited about? Maybe it's a startup you've backed?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's interesting because, like, I'm sure people have all sorts of like perceptions of us when they think of us right off the bat. But in starting Mantis, our goal was really to invest in areas kind of outside the scope of where you might imagine us investing, and that was like very intentional for a few reasons. And I think first being that like I don't think a lot of athlete entertainers have made a concerted effort to invest in data and cloud infra or cybersecurity. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I don't think that's like been their focus. And the other part was like because of that, I felt like that was a real opportunity. You have great funds like Pairs and Amplifies and USVs and Sequoias.
House funds.
Yeah, house fund, investing into those areas. But like, what about someone like us that can help invest into those areas, but also bring unique value to give these companies a more holistic chance of success in terms of the tools we can offer them? And so that was really appealing. And the other thing was just like I didn't want to dilute our music brand. Like by investing into consumer and creator economy stuff, it was going to really like create this kind of like gray area between our music and our investing that like I didn't want, like if a founder's like, hey Alex, like we'll let you invest if you post us on your Instagram story. It's like first of all, like I'm definitely not investing if that's how you're thinking about the value that we bring to the table. And then also like I think fundamentally Drew and I have always been curious, and there's like invisible layers that make the world go round. And we had been angel investing into consumer and these different areas for long enough where I was like, it's cool to walk into a supermarket and see a product you backed and see someone drinking it on a train station or train or subway. But like I can't imagine what the feeling like is if you saw Uber at like the pre-seed round, and like that is like one of the most useful apps I've ever used in my entire life. And so like I want to be part of those companies and challenge myself and learn more about these technical areas, and it's been one of the most sort of rewarding and fulfilling things that I've done, period.
How do you end up helping the founders that you've backed?
I think it starts, so we have to like treat every deal like life or death. Like I think I acknowledge that the world perceives us as lazy celebrities, and certainly a lot of people before us have done a really bad job building that relationship between our world and their world. It's a lot of like over-promising and under-delivering. And so I really don't blame anyone that comes into a call with us or gets introduced and thinks like, here we go again, I've seen this story a million times. And that was our promise when we launched this fund, which is like we cannot be those people. We have to be doing the hand-to-hand combat 24/7, and this is how we differentiate ourselves, because I don't know anyone else that's going to go to the length we are to help these companies succeed and show up and operate this fund on a daily basis. And then going even further, it was like, well, let's drive. Our goal is to always be the most helpful investor ahead of any lead or anyone with us. Like we take it extremely competitively. That like I want that founder to be like giving the lead shit about how helpful we've been relative to them. And that's not always the case, but that's certainly what we strive for. And then and that comes from our sense of life or death. Like because I really need every founder we invest in, especially in these like cybersecurity and AI and gaming and health tech areas, to turn around to the next founder and basically have that conversation with them that I had with them, which is like, I know what you're thinking. I took a chance, and I'm telling you right now, you'd be stupid not to take a chance on these guys. And so we've worked really hard to build that reputation over the last 4 years to be that helpful investor. And we always say we're like your bloodhound. So I've probably helped close and recruit over 250 people for different companies.
Wow, that's crazy.
Made, countless design partner and enterprise customer relationship introductions because of the connectivity that we've had with the companies we've played shows for or met in our travels and journeys. And then you kind of touched on it earlier, but I think we are like really skilled at the go-to-market strategies and and we invest seed and Series A. So like, I love the idea of storytelling as a fundamental piece of any business. And you really have to like figure out like what is your identity. And we had to do this with Chainsmokers. Like, why are people coming to us? And why would they keep coming back to us? What is unique about us, and how do we tell this story effectively? And whether you're in a super technical company or a more consumer-facing business, those things are just equally as important, because you're going to find yourselves in a big conference room with 1,000 vendors around you pitching the same thing. So how do you stand out? How do you tell that story effectively, not to your customers, but to your future employees and to your future investors? And I think we do that better than anybody. But I think the value proposition with us, at least at this point in time, is really simple. It's that like we want our companies to have their cake and eat it too. So we've modeled ourselves in a way where we're not competitive. We're collaborative with anyone. So when you find the next best company at house, your fund, you're thinking like, I don't have to worry about calling Alex because I know he just needs X%, and that fits in exactly alongside where we do it. And my hope is that like I get to be a part of a great company and learn from that experience. So I always say this metaphor that Fran is certainly sick of hearing, which is like, our role is to be the sixth man of the year on every championship team. And I know, everyone loves Michael Jordan and LeBron and Kobe, but like Robert Horry has like more rings than all of those guys. And this dude just like showed up, consistently dropped 15 points, provide the defensive spark, these things that are critical to the success of a championship team. And that's how we think about our role.
As a Laker fan, I'm a huge fan of him.
And so little people know that thing. Like I can tell when I say it sometimes, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I should have named someone else.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible work that you do. Founders out there, most VCs, besides House and Mantis, are lazy. And so you should take money from Mantis. They will help you build a huge company. It's so hard to recruit. It's amazing what you do. So we're almost at the end here. We're going to do a quick fire session. But before we do that, I want to run a small experiment. We don't know if it's going to work. It's really expensive to get a Chainsmokers concert happening here. We did explore this, though we're going to try to have you play this Baby Einstein piano, and let's see if it works.
Oh, that's nice.
All right.
That's fun.
All right, so we're going to have you kind of turn over here. We're going to move the monster trucks.
Wow. Oh, shit.
Don't worry about it. We got some souvenirs. All right, so we're not going to do the cat sounds. So this puts it on piano. And I'm going to put this mic under here and then see if you can play. Let's see if it works.
Oh, it's kind of neat. I'm trying to play some Coldplay for y'all, but
the black keys don't work. It's for babies.
Oh,
but the other keys do work. The other keys do work.
Oh, Chuck. I don't even know what this is hard. I usually.
Here, I'll hold it on top of the mic.
More songs have black keys in them.
Oh, okay.
Is this like a D right here? I don't know. It's a C probably. No, I don't know. This is harder than I thought.
You're doing great.
Yeah. I can play a Kygo song with this one.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right, thank you. Thank you for trying. Yeah. This is for you.
Great.
For those that haven't been to a Chainsmokers concert, now you have. So now you can
as good as they are.
Now you can tell your friends. All right. Last but not least, we're going to do a quick fire session. Alex, I'm going to ask you super quick questions. I need super quick answers. Let's do this.
Cool.
All right. Bitcoin, buy, sell, hodl.
Buy and hold.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite place to perform?
Probably Brazil.
Nice.
And the Greek.
And the Greek. There we go. Yes. Favorite historical artist?
Aronimus Bosch.
Nice. On hot ones, how hot were the hot wings?
They get real hot. They do. And they sneak up on you. You know what I mean? They give you this false sense of security, and then 3 or 4 minutes later, you're really paying for it.
You did great. It's on YouTube. Berkeley or Stanford?
Berkeley.
Go Bears. NBA champions this year. Who's it going to be?
It's not going to be the Knicks, although I want it to be. Probably Denver again.
All right. Mushu's favorite toy or snack?
Popcorn. Obsessed with popcorn.
This is Mushu.
Obsessed.
Most disruptive startup?
Most disruptive startup. In period, across the whole thing, or in our portfolio?
pump your portfolio.
I mean, I'm excited for this company, AIM. It's a hardware software play on autonomous heavy machinery. So they automate basically excavators and like basically can terraform and do the work that they could fix the Louisiana seaboard in like 6 months versus like a 15 to 20 year project. So I'm excited to see how they've revolutionized the construction space and mining space.
All right, y'all should try to get a job there.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure on your Spotify top songs.
I've been listening to Leslie Gore, "You Don't Owe Me" on repeat for some reason. Yeah.
All right,
it's a really good song.
I'll check it out. Best cartoon.
I was just watching Rick and Morty on the way over here too.
Great. The best. The best.
It's not the best one, but it's really good.
Best sci-fi.
Game of Thrones probably, in my opinion, right now. Yeah, I'll stick with that one.
All right. Social security number.
Yeah.
If you could pick any superpower, what would it be?
Probably time travel.
Sweet. Dream collab. You've done it with Coldplay. You've done it with Blink-182. So many amazing artists. Who's next?
I mean, I think like Rosalia would be so fun to get into the studio with. So if you watch UC Berkeley stream Rosalia.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get it to her. Free startup idea for the audience.
Free startup idea. Oh, man, I was talking about this the other day with someone. I like think about this, especially during like the ZERP period, where I was like, I wish I had a good idea, because like I could have raised like $100 million, and then no one would have cared now. People would have just written it off, and it was like it was a ZERP thing. And it just free. I feel like there's so many things out there. I think that's I don't know.
You don't want to give away your secrets.
Yeah.
It's okay. Lastly, any parting advice for the aspiring entrepreneurs here today?
I think like it's okay. I think having a healthy sense of paranoia is super important. I think being competitive as well is a super important quality to have. These are things that I think will continue to keep you motivated in the future. And then the other last thing, which I kind of talked about earlier, is just these are ideas and businesses you're going to work on for such a long time. I've been dumped by like 3 girlfriends because I'm a workaholic, but it's not work to me. I love what I do, and I spend every waking minute thinking about it and being passionate about it. And obviously, unfortunately, no one else wants to spend their time with me while I do that. But to me, it's hard to separate the two. And that's, I think, what allows us to be so effective and cover so much ground and be so passionate. So I think, just work on things don't be opportunistic in the sense where you see something cool happening and you think you could do something there. Like really have a real passion for what the stuff you do, because you could be stuck doing forever. And look at us, like we still have to perform selfie. Like that sucks. Like, what I mean? So like we think long and hard. Like we've had other selfie ideas where we're like, we're not following through on this idea because like I don't want to perform that for the rest of my life. Yeah.
No selfies. Let's give it up for Alex. Thank you. Awesome, man. So, just some closing thoughts. I want to thank Alex and the Mantis team for coming. Let's give it up for them one more time. I want to thank the House Fund team and the Vesper team and all of our volunteers. This event wouldn't have been possible without them. Raise your hand. Woo! Thank you, iHouse, for hosting us. This place is amazing. Yes, we got Bottomless Sour Patch Kids as well. Shout out to iHouse. I want to thank you all for coming, especially during midterms. You are not going to regret this. Incredible opportunity, incredible lessons here.
I don't remember any midterms. But I remember the people that came and I met, so. Yeah.
Give it up for yourselves. Thanks for coming. Thank you to the entire crew, the entire staff here. I also want to give a shout out to a bunch of the student clubs, the unsung heroes that build and grow the entrepreneurship community here. We've got a bunch of amazing clubs here. We have FreeV here. We got Build the Future, CalHacks, Kairos, MLab, Machine Learning at Berkeley, Blockchain at Berkeley. We got folks from New Space here. We have, there we go. What up? What up? We have AIEB here, AI Club. We've got DRF. We've got a bunch of just amazing clubs and their leaders here that just create the opportunities for students. I mean, that's where it all started with the House Fund. We want to support you. Let us know how we can support your clubs and your events. Let's give it up for those student leaders. excited to work with you all to build a better future together. We'll send out some info for how you can connect with the House Fund, how you can connect with Mantis. Closing here, there's going to be an opportunity to get some quick photos with Alex. We're going to have a camera over here. They're going to be super fast photos. Like I said before, no selfies, but folks are going to be able to line up here and then go over to the side. And if folks want to come up towards the stage, I did practice before this, and so I might be playing some Chainsmokers songs up here too. So with that,
you've seen the Chainsmoker piano. It's only 3. There's too many keys on this.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. All right, with that, go Bears. Thank you, everyone.
Good shit, baby. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Awesome job.
Thanks for coming.
Super fun.